We are interested in finding out how men who've experienced trauma, either recently or a long time ago, have been able to cope with this and move forward with their lives. What is the purpose of the Men's Trauma Center?
The purpose of the Men's Trauma Center is to serve the needs of male survivors, adult male survivors of various kinds of trauma. Most of our clients are survivors of childhood abuse of various kinds, but we do also serve men who have been traumatized in other ways as well.
How would you describe yourself and your life when you first came to the Men's Trauma Center?
I was a mess. To say the least, I was a real mess.
Well, I was kind of lost guy at the first. In the beginning, I was a little mixed up.
I didn't really want to accept that there was anything wrong with me.
You know, for a large part of my life, I'd given up hope and thought that I would always be messed up and that the future would always be bleak and the next disaster was just around the corner.
I always had shame of what had happened.
Oh, I've been pretty screwed up, you know, because I've been introduced to the men's trauma when I've been at William Ed Institution. I've been on my 3rd federal sentence, you know.
I did the junkie life and I did the criminal life and I did all that. And you know, and I'd be lying. There's days when I said, just give me a rope or give me something sharp.
Before I came here, I, for one, saw no good reason why I shouldn't just drink myself to death, which is exactly what I was doing.
By using drugs like a pig, just for killing myself.
In my doctor's office, at a visit to my own GP, I was overwhelmed with grief, and in having a conversation with them, mentioned my father's passing, and I was so overwhelmed with grief that I started crying.
But a few things came out in 2009 that brought things back to the surface, and I knew at that time it had to be stopped. My abuser was still doing these things to other children, so he had to be stopped.
By that time, I had a very good idea of what I needed to work on, so that's why I came here, because I knew I had to deal with my abuse issues.
And I wake up at the police station one morning, and I decide, when I wake up there, and I realize what happened, after talking to a few people, I realized that's the life sent me a sign. You need to do something.
I haven't cried for years. I didn't cry when my mother died or when my father died. But sitting in my doctor's office, I had a nervous breakdown. And my doctor left me there to cry for a good 20-25 minutes. And when he came back into the room, he said to me, "I'm going to refer you somewhere. I don't know where, but we'll get back to you, Scott, in the next couple of days." And it was the very next day that my doctor's office called me and referred me to the Men's Trauma Center.
What was it like for you to reach out and ask for help?
Really hard. Really, really hard.
Very difficult, actually.
In the beginning, real hard.
It was something I was not prepared to do. It was something I was afraid to do.
I guess it was a bit of a humbling experience. Not because I'm ashamed of it or anything, but just because I've done it before. And it's a little bit embarrassing for me to sort of tell my family that, yeah, I'm still working on stuff.
Why is it important to have an agency exclusively for men?
Well, there are agencies already that specialize in working with women, and I think it's important to have an agency for men because there's a stigma attached to males admitting that they're victims. Men are not supposed to be victims. They're supposed to be providers. They're supposed to be strong and resilient.
And in a society, it's just something you're supposed to suck it up and get on with it, right? Guys aren't supposed to show that kind of emotion.
Like a lot of men, you know, we have that mentality to a man can't show his emotion. A man can't asking for help, you know, because if he showed that, oh, he's not strong enough.
And the truth is that a significant number of boys are abused as children, and they grow up carrying around the wounds of that abuse. And they have as much right and need for support and counseling and help as women do. And if you have an agency that's dedicated to men, they feel more comfortable coming forward because their particular needs and sensitivities are responded to in a unique way. And I think that's what we do at this agency.
Because I was at the bottom of the barrel. I had no, believe me, I had no path to go. I was through the whole path. I was at the darkest you can get.
Coming here to this place was putting the key into the lock.
But as time goes on, you have to learn to trust somebody. And you can learn it here for sure, absolutely.
When you first came into the Men's Trauma Center, what were the things that people said and did that were helpful?
Well, they listen, patience, they understand. It's a great crew here. It's good staff. It's good staff. They know what they're doing. They're professional.
When I was first interviewed by the intake worker, I guess I was a little bit surprised at first because she wanted to talk about some stuff that I didn't really want to talk about and that I wasn't really expecting. So it was a bit of it was just a little bit harder at first than I thought it would be.
The first things that happened, it was the encouragement and the assurance and the reassurance that though I suffered through the trauma and continue to, that it never was my fault at any point. I was not responsible for this. And I think that was the first and greatest hurdle of coming to terms with what's happened to me.
Alana helping me so good, you know, so much. And sometimes we pass an hour, she listened to me every time, dealing just with my mom.
It wasn't my fault. It took, first time I heard it, I didn't really believe it, but after a few weeks of therapy, it finally started to sink in that it wasn't my fault. And I was a minor, I had no control over it, and that was the biggest thing that came out of the whole to believe that it wasn't my fault.
She never say, Martin, that's enough. She been there all the time. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm succeeding, you know.
You have a choice, either male, female, there's no gender, there's no prejudice, there's nothing to do with anything like that. They strictly work on you, period. It's about you.
How do you feel about yourself now compared to when you first came to the Men's Trauma Center?
Good. Good. I could get up in the morning now, and I have a reason to get up, and I know what I'm going to do in life.
If I have a little time where I don't feel good, but not that all day didn't screw up, you know. My day's still nice. I just have that little period of time.
Able to hold my head up, no shame. I don't have to feel like I'm watching over my shoulder every 5 minutes. That somebody might know who I am or something that knew what my perpetrator had done to me. It just doesn't matter anymore.
But now I can say I'm not a perfect citizen, but I can say I'm a good citizen because I don't do crime anymore.
I feel much better. I think that I still have some work that I want to do on myself, but now I know that I can do it, so I feel more optimistic about the future. Now I think I will have a future.
I have learned to love myself. I have learned to accept myself.
You live your life the way you want. People can't judge. You got to judge yourself. I ain't got time to worry about what people think or judge me. I judge myself according to what I do in the world. And as long as I do good and not hurt nobody, I can live with it. I can live with it for sure.
I saw no reason why I shouldn't sit night after night and drink myself into oblivion. And I don't do that anymore.
How have you been able to move forward in your life since you got help?
My life is completely different. I mean, I never had a job for 20 years. Now I've got 2 jobs, and I've had them for 1.5 years. Everything's different.
I've been with hard stuff during those 11 months. And I never doing crime during those times.
All of my life, I never ever dreamed that I would graduate high school because it was never ever a possibility for me.
I don't break the law. Everything's going really great. I can talk to people a lot better about, things that I wouldn't even think about before, let alone talk, like, abuse issues.
I started to find a place. I had contact with my mom, and it's funny because sometimes I think about that. I'm clean for 19 months now, and that's me. Not a little beer there or not a little joint there, It's totally nothing for 19 months.
Well, I'm employed now. I own my own vehicle. I got my own apartment. I have a bank account. Clean and sober.
The plans I have today, I can actually see myself becoming a professional. I have plans to enter into college this year, and I am going to come out of this being me with a degree, but I'm going to be able to work professionally for the first time in my life.
Many ways. When I first came here, I never ever thought I'd have a child. I didn't want kids, neither did my wife. She had been abused herself, and after she's had some therapy as well, and myself for over 1 year, we both just had a little girl in December. Beautiful little girl.
How do you see yourself moving forward from this point?
Have a good life with my wife and daughter, and move forward without having that shame over on me all the time.
I know one day I have enough school to going with my experience in life I can helping other person.
Just looking for better times. Just hopefully health. Health is big. And just lead karma. I believe in karma, lots of karma. Just be good in the world and just lead that right life, and it'll come to you. It'll come to you. You just gotta have patience.
I just want helping a young man or young woman to don't go by where I come from, Nobody deserves to have that kind of life.
I want to improve my relationships with people. I have a lengthy history of broken down relationships with various people, so I want to try to make sure that stops happening by having more quality relationships in my life.
That is my goal, and give it back what I received, We don't know. I'm probably working for the men's trauma one day,
I see myself crystal clear moving forward from this point, because coming here has given me the strategies to get out in the world, and now I know today what it is that I have to do in preparation for the college course that I'm going to take. And on completion of that, I'm going to work in the media business, which has been a lifelong dream of mine, and something that I've always set aside because it was always just a dream. And now I can see in the next few years that it's going to be a reality. And it's all thanks to this place.
Now I realize that I have control over my life, and it's up to me what happens in the future.
What do you want people to know about healing from trauma?
Well, I want people to know that it's possible. That if a man is committed and wants to heal from the effects of trauma, that it's possible to do that with the right support, with the right information, with the right commitment, that a man can overcome those long-term effects and move forward and have the kind of life that he always deserved to have and just didn't realize that he did.
there is help, and it's called the Men's Trauma Center. There's only one, but it is needed. Believe me, it helped me 100%.
The men's trauma helping me a lot when I released, and that is in around 2008.
Coming here was probably the best move I've made in my whole life, and I would really encourage other people to do it if they were thinking about it.
If anybody else has this been through the same thing, I urge them to get in, to come in and see somebody. It's the best thing you could ever do. It may sound emotional about it, but it's because I know how much better I am now.
I'd like to thank the men who participated in this video for their courage to share their stories. At the center, we're getting busier all the time. We have an average of a new client every working day, and we have men on a waiting list for service. As the Men's Trauma Center moves forward, I'd like to invite members of the community to get involved in whatever way feels appropriate. Opportunities include volunteering in our office, participating in special events, joining our board of directors, becoming involved in our internship program, or making a monetary donation to help subsidize low-income clients or fund our expansion into larger quarters in the next 18 months. On behalf of myself, the staff, and most importantly, the men we serve, I'd like to thank everyone who makes the work we do possible. Thank you. So this is Sammy, and he's our therapy dog. He greets people when they come in the front door. He goes into the waiting room and hangs out with people, and he gets to know all the guys that come in. And he also comes into sessions with me when I work with my clients. He'll hang out in the session, and he'll sometimes sit on people's laps, or he'll comfort them if they're upset and that sort of thing. So he works here about half time, and he's here most days, and he's part of the Men's Trauma Center community.
Everything says